Okay, now we're ready to go into the introduction to the Ages and Stages Questionnaire, number 3. And this is, like I said before, it's a parent-completed child monitoring system. What is the ASQ? Well, it's a parent or caregiver completed screening tool that encourages parent and caregiver involvement. It's a series of questionnaires for children ages 1 month to 5.5 years. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to score. Actually, most of the sites that used this said that they can score the ASQ in less than a minute. But for the learning curve, allow yourself 2 to 3 minutes to score. It's a tool to accurately identify children at risk for developmental delay, and it was based on a research sample of more than 18,000 diverse children. It's one of the largest research samples that's been done. It is a valid tool. Overall agreement across all questionnaires compared to the gold standard of testing of 83%. It has a sensitivity of 86, which is very high, and a specificity of 85, which is very high. It is very reliable. The test, retest, and inter-rater reliability is 94, and it's used by many of the ABCD statewide screening programs. In comparison to the Denver pre-screening developmental questionnaire, the reason I wanted to include this is that the Denver is still widely used with health departments and even in some pediatric practices, but just to compare the improvement actually of the ASQ over the Denver. For instance, the Denver takes 2 to 12 minutes to administer. It was drawn from the Denver 2, which was normed on only 2,096 children in Colorado. And the sensitivity is rather low, it's 68, and the specificity is 88. So the ASQ is a one-time purchase. You have unlimited copies, so you don't have to keep purchasing more forms like you do with other developmental screeners. It will screen, it's sensitive for autism, cerebral palsy, ADHD, and developmental delays. It's highly rated by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and First Signs Initiative. It's also a good teaching tool for parents. It helps them learn about their child's development and celebrate their child's development. It's strengths-based. It reveals a child's strengths as well as the areas of concern, so it's easier to share the results, and developmental rapport develops better with the parents. The developmental domains that are screened by the ASQ include 5 domains. The first one is communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social. The materials that come with the ASQ is a series of questionnaires, and they are in several languages, English, Spanish, Korean, and French, and there have been several more developed over the past few years. Other translations may be available, and you would need to contact the developers of Brooks Publishing to find out what other languages it comes in. And you have the contact information for Brooks Publishing there on your next slide. Early detection through surveillance and screening. I think we need to speak just a moment to the difference between surveillance and screening. Surveillance is a continuous process, and screening complements and enhances surveillance. Surveillance is a process of recognizing children who may be at risk of a developmental delay. It's flexible, longitudinal, and it's a continuous process in which a knowledgeable professional performs skilled physical and developmental observations of children within the context of preventive care. A screener, however, is just a brief, objective, and validated test. The goal is to differentiate children that are probably okay, specificity, versus those children that need additional evaluation or investigation, and that is the sensitivity. Screening is designed to identify children who should receive more intensive evaluation or diagnosis from local early intervention programs, early childhood special ed, health and or mental health agencies. And it's also performed at a set point in time. Now you'll see the schematic here. The screening actually separates children into three categories. The first one would be, on the right, would be the child does not seem to have any problems with their development. The second group in the middle there would be those children that are near the cutoffs. They are not typical, but they are probably not serious enough to make further referral. And then those children that are beyond the cutoffs. I'd like to direct your attention right now to the last page of the ASQ screen, and let me show you what I'm talking about so far as cutoffs and that sort of thing. Okay, this is the summary page for your ASQ screener, and you'll notice here under communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal, you have cutoff scores listed. So communication for this 16-month questionnaire is 16.81. So you have this black shaded area, then you have a gray area, and then you have a light area. If the cutoff score is 1681, then that score would land in the dark area, which, well, it would almost land in the dark area. If anything under 1681, then it would. Any bubble in the dark area really requires further evaluation. This indicates that the child is about 2 standard deviations below the mean and really should be evaluated. If the score is bubbled in the shaded area, that means that the child is not typical and probably needs to be either rescreened in future, monitored, possibly have the family be given some anticipatory guidance materials so that they can work with their child. Or, in your professional opinion, after you've evaluated such things as other issues known to you because you are the pediatrician, you may want to go ahead and refer that child even if they're in the gray area. And as an example, we're going to go through an exercise on a little guy named Andrew, and we'll discuss how the referrals were made after looking at his scores. And then, of course, in the white area, that means that he's typically developing, and there's no questions, no problems, he's probably just fine. Okay, so back to the schematic for the screening. So screening breaks kids down into 3 groups: beyond the cutoff in the black area, near the cutoff in the gray, and then not near the cutoff in the white area. If the child is in the white area on the graph, just continue to monitor, rescreen at regular periods, and give the parents the anticipatory guidance sheets that help the parent know what they can expect in that child's development and activities that they can do at home with their child to help further the child's development and provide an enriched environment. If the child's near the cutoff, like I said before, you could choose to continue to monitor. We prefer that you always give the anticipatory guidance sheets so that those parents can also work with their child. Or you may want to refer depending on the risk factors associated with that child's background. If the child scores beyond the cutoffs, then professional assessment is warranted. The child may or may not test eligible for interventions. If they don't test eligible, continue to monitor and use the prescriptive anticipatory guidance sheets. Or if the child is shown eligible, then they will receive, especially through early intervention, the therapies and the interventions that they need in order to make the best of their development. Just a little bit of statistical information. In general, and not knocking pediatricians because they're wonderful, but physicians are not identifying those children with significant developmental delays as much as they could. For instance, only 2.4% of infants having a disability are identified, those same children then move on, and then we find out that there's preschoolers, only 5.8 are identified, and at school age 11.6. So what we have are school-agers that were preschoolers with disabilities, that were infants with disabilities that just did not get identified. One of the things that we hope pediatricians will do is when they have an ASQ and there is a delay indicated, that you not just wait, but you go ahead and refer immediately. So, immediate referral at the earliest age equals improved outcomes for the lifetime of the child. We know that those children that receive quality intervention have higher achievement in math and reading. There's less antisocial behavior, less suicide, less suicidal thoughts, less smoking, less alcohol, and less THC use at the age of 18. So that's the conclusion on what the features of the ASQ are, and now we're going to go into how to score and interpret this tool.